Hey, Chris Lipe here. All of us age. All of us are going to age. How can we set ourselves up to have a voice that ages well? Or if we're already older, how can we do things that help our voice represent what we truly want to express while realizing the reality that we just can't compare our voices to younger vocalists? Well, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other vocalists anyway. We should be learning from them, but not comparing. And that's really a separate issue. In this video, I want to offer you 3 things that I do to make sure that my voice is cared for, so that in the short term, my voice feels great, and in the long term, my voice is set up to change with the times, to still be artistic and expressive as I get older. Make sure you join my free vocal course if you haven't already by clicking the link below. That's really step 1 in learning how to age with your voice well. Getting the foundational singing techniques down so that you can take those throughout your life, throughout your singing career. Discussion point number 1. Learn to develop a vocal budget, both a short-term budget on a daily basis, weekly basis, but also on a long-term budget. What I mean by this is we want to look at and examine closely how we're using our voice, how our voice feels when we're using our voice, and then make decisions based on how we should use our voice in the future. And for now, I'm particularly talking about usage amount. If you have a job that requires you to talk all day, if you're on the phone a lot, if you are talking in loud environments, if you sing a lot, what impact does that have on your voice by the end of the day? What impact does that have on your voice at the end of the week? On weeks where you're not talking as much or not singing as much, does your voice feel differently, maybe better than when you are using your voice more? This could be a budgeting issue. And it can be particularly tricky in the short term, right? If you wear your voice out and you can't talk the next day, something like that. But there's this sneaky long-term effect that happens when over time, as our body starts to change, we may start to notice, wow, I don't have the vocal stamina, the vocal endurance that I used to. Well, is that because I'm doing something wrong? No, it could be that you've developed habits of overuse and you've created some imbalances. You see, as we overuse our voice, we do these little unconscious compensation sorts of things. And when that happens, sometimes this can lead to using one side of our vocal cords more than the other. Sometimes that can lead to imbalances in how the cords close. Some of this stuff is reversible, and some of it, because it happens over a chronic or a long-term period of time, can stick with us for quite a while. Vocal budgeting over the long term is a way to ensure that we don't overuse our voice in the short term and then develop imbalances in the long term that contribute to early onset fatigue. If you are at that point where you do feel like you get tired easily and you're not quite sure why, I encourage you to do 2 things. First, seek out a speech therapist. They can be really helpful. Second, join my free vocal course, because in the context of that, and then the content that follows, I actually go through some speech therapy oriented exercises to help you reclaim balance with your voice. Here's the second discussion point. Follow this mantra. What is good for the body is good for the voice. What are you putting in your body on a daily basis that could be contributing to long-term aging in general? What are you doing to your body over in the short term that could be hard on your body? I'm going to use two different cases here, two different scenarios as a way to illustrate this. The first is an extreme sports athlete, like a triathlete. These guys, they're in fantastic shape, right? They're running a lot, they're biking a lot, they're swimming, they're doing all sorts of things. Some of these guys, over time, even though they're super in shape and they're doing things correctly, they've been professionally trained, over the course of their careers, they realize, man, I'm not going to be able to be a triathlete forever. And wow, my knees, my knees are getting shot, or my back is not what it used to be. And some of these guys discover these sorts of problems earlier than someone who would have been more moderate in their exercise. So now this feeds into singing as well, which I'll get into in the last discussion point. But when we are hard on our bodies, both in dietary intake and in physical exertion in activity other than singing, these things impact our voice, both in the short term and the long term. If we're eating things that are not what our body needs, but is more what we want, and it ends up having adverse effects like unwanted weight gain or digestive issues, these things will impact your voice, and they will cause premature aging. Even though it has nothing to do with singing, you might say, but it really does. Take care of your body. Sleep, stress, all these things affect unconsciously the way that we use our voice during the day. So if you're poorly vocally budgeting and you're eating garbage and you're exerting yourself in a way that causes physical stress and you're not dealing with emotional and mental stress, well, not only does our brain chemicals have something to do with all this stuff, which I don't really know that much about that, but our mental state actually pulls blood from different parts of our body and allocates it in different ways when we're stressed and when we're unrested. But also, the way that we end up using our voice because of these effects puts more strain on it, decreases our vocal budget, and then we don't know that it's decreasing our vocal budget because we're not thinking about it. We get tired easily, compensate, jack up our voice, and we haven't even done any singing yet. There's lots of information everywhere when it comes to diet and exercise. But my overall and overarching mindset with this is that I want to use moderation, eat what my body needs, and give my body what it needs before I look at what I want. If you have that sort of mindset, that's just an overall healthy outlook when it comes to general health, but it really does impact your voice over the long term. And here's the third talking point. Work to develop a style of singing that allows for margin and diversity. This is the biggest one out of all of them. So many times we get caught up on wanting to have that grit, be able to scream, be able to sing aggressively, or be able to sing really high, or be able to do a certain thing that we hear in other people's voices. And we're just so infatuated with that we don't truly consider the potential long-term effects of going this route and being fixated on a particular style. Remember, as I said with the extreme athlete, even if we're doing things right when we're singing aggressively, we don't want to do too much of a good thing. And if we make our voice about that and only about that, as we get older, as our voice changes, as our moving target moves around, and we realize that certain things, because simply we're older, we can't do in the same way. If one of those things that we were really all about when we were younger, we're not able to do when we're older, we have cheated ourselves out of all sorts of other aspects of our voice that we could have developed that are not as strenuous, that are still musical, enjoyable to sing, enjoyable to listen to. So diversity, moderation, they're so key when developing longevity and interesting vocals over the long term. Yes, learn to scream, learn to use mixed voice, learn to sing aggressively, but also Work on singing cleanly across your entire range. Develop your head voice. Develop your clean head voice well. Use it a lot. The head voice is amazing. Develop a well-rounded, well-supported chest voice. And sing with emotion across your range. Connect your emotional state to the way you're feeling and connect that with how your voice feels across all dynamic spectrums and all styles of singing. Don't get fixated on how to sing like Corey Taylor or how to sing like Chris Cornell or how to sing like even guys like Michael Bublé or some of the more mild singers out there. Don't get fixated on any one thing. Do it all. Do it all and do it all moderately. Do it introspectively and listen to your voice, not just with your ears, but with your body. How are things feeling? And then as you age and your creative tastes change, your voice will change with you instead of you working against your voice to do things that, I used to be able to do this and now I can't do this. I'm sunk. Nobody wants to go down that road. You look at guys like Robert Plant, whose voice, in my opinion, has aged amazingly over the years. He has a great voice now. You look at guys like Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, Paul McCartney, and there's a lot more. These guys have figured out ways to listen to their voice, ways to feel their voice, and not pigeonhole themselves into things that they have to do. They've used creativity and they've used introspection over the long haul. Yeah, their voices sound different in their older ages, but they still sound great. They're still creative. So let those kinds of things be inspiration to you as well. I hope this was helpful, got you thinking about some of your own habits, both in life and in singing. Be sure to leave comments below. And again, be sure to sign up for my free vocal course to get started on the right trajectory, even as you begin your journey singing. We'll see you for more.